another exciting episode of the Paul Brown Show. We're taping at 2 Expose You Studio, and today I have as my special guest Miss Elmira Williams. How you doing there, Miss Williams?
Good morning, Paul. I'm doing wonderful. And how are you today?
I'm doing great. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yes, my name is Elmira Williams. I'm an independent insurance, life, and health broker. And I work in the community just trying to educate our Black community on the importance of life protection. I find joy in doing that. And it so far has been a wonderful, wonderful ride.
Okay, you choose the topic of the importance of life protection. Why did you select that topic?
The reason I selected the topic life protection is because it's so important that our community understand the importance of leaving a legacy. So many times, whenever we lose a loved one, they're left picking up the pieces. Not only are they grieving, but they're left picking up the financial pieces because of they did not have their life protection in place.
So why do we not get better prepared financially for like emergency or protection for our loved ones?
Yes, sir. What I have found out, Mr. Paul, is that in our Black community, we as Black people, we tend to put more interest and effort into frivolous things and not things of purpose. Uh, for example, we fail to save for a rainy day. I have those finances put away. Whenever that hard time hit us, we're kind of like lost. We're kind of stunned and don't know what way direction to take. It becomes a snowball effect. And the way that it happens is that I failed to save. Every person failed to save. What happens is that they get farther and farther behind in their bill. It could be just your car breaking down. And you have to come up with some money to pay for that vehicle, to have it repaired. And if you're not prepared to do that, it's going to just be, again, a snowball effect. Then you can end up, not being able to pay your rent, not being able to meet your mortgage, things like that, because you're trying to take money that you spent on your mortgage and pay for it repairing a vehicle. And then that puts you further and further on.
Okay, we have a lot of people in society who are living paycheck to paycheck. So how do we go about in like saving this extra money? I know it's good to say that, but how do we go about when we're living paycheck to paycheck?
I understand. I love that question, Mr. Brown. Sit down with my first thing is to really financial budget. And as I'm sitting with my clients, I realize, so when I sit down and help them to budget, they can see that they can put back every month if they're able to put back, starting out with $25. At least if you can do that every month or every paycheck, it's going to have a cushion there for you that you will have something to turn to in time of a financial hardship.
Okay, you said $25. When do we start? Because some of us, we say, okay, is it too late? When is it too late to start budgeting?
It's never too late. And the reason why I say it's never too late, because the decision to change. So if you're able to put back, like I said, starting with a small amount, you can always increase it once you're able to find that extra money that's there. So the first thing is to first make the decision to do it. And again, it's never too late. Once you make that decision and you're able to do that, it will change your life because you're able to set aside money into your financial reservoir that you can always tap into in the event of a hardship.
Okay, I know we run into this. I know we have a lot this thing going on called coronavirus, and there's a lot of unexpected death that's going on. How do we, saw that as far as that funeral service and, that unexpected funeral expenses that's coming on these days and
Thank
paying
you
for
for that
that.
question, Brown. Sir, and I will tell you, I'm going to speak on reality right now. I have been there where I've had friends lose loved ones, and they were unable to give them a proper. They didn't have any life protection in place. So what they do, they have to go and they have to collect money from the churches. The old saying, passing around the hat, or they're doing the GoFundMe. But the reality is, the GoFundMe does not guarantee you. I recently had a friend of mine who did it me and needed $10,000, but they only raised $4,000. So that left her with $6,000 have to come up with, and that's going to be with her. She's paid it out. So that's a very good question about how people are getting through in regards to losing loved ones to the coronavirus and other things that's going on. They're pretty much doing the GoFundMe's, but the GoFundMe's is not really doing it, for a proper burial. So I would like to say to every family, if you can find some way and to understand the importance of putting in life protection for your family, it'll be very well worth it.
Why is it so important that parents have some type of insurance policy for not only their children but themselves, just in case something happens to their selves or their children?
Thank you so much. The reason why it's so important for us to have something in place like a love legacy or a life protection, because if something shall happen to the parent, and just say if they have a children, those children, they have to go out to different members to help take care of those children, because then they have nowhere to go, nothing to lean back on. If the parent had a love legacy, that would leave enough finances to take care of those children. In the event of someone had to take them, that they'll be able to take and provide for those children. So that's so important that parents understand that you leave something for your children that they are able to survive. And I can want to just touch on that from a personal standpoint. In 2015, I lost my son unexpectedly. A good kid, never would have thought it had happened to him. But life happened, Brown, and it literally killed me. But here's the thing: we did have protection for my son, so we were able to give him a proper burial. But the thing about it, we only had 25,000 at the time, and the service itself cost me 17,000. So what that did, it forced me to go back to work and try to, pick up the pieces, get life back together. It was very hard for me, but thank God I survived. But imagine I had not had anything, still be struggling to take care of those final expenses.
Mm. How important is it to us to prioritize? 'Cause I know a lot of times we kind of like our priorities, especially in the Black community, whereas we would buy $300 Jordans, $400 shoes, instead of putting that money away for that unexpected emergencies.
Thank you for bringing that point up. That is so very Black community. That yes, we have our product. And I mean by a mother, single mom, family is more important going out and purchasing shoes and handbag and all of that. She's paying a healthy amount of money to have those items. But whenever tax season roll around, instead of going and purchasing that Gucci bag or that Louis Vuitton or those red bottom shoes, what that parent can do, they can actually pay their whole life policy up for the entire year. And it will be way less than what she invested in a handbag or red bottom shoes. Is not going to benefit her family at all.
Mm. Do you think society takes advantage of the black community as far as taking our financial and taking advantage of our lack of knowledge of our money and using it to their advantage, society?
Certainly. Mr. Brown, I'm sure you see it every day as well as I see it every day. We got the biggest consumers. It comes purchases. We love to spend. We're the biggest consumer, but we don't really let it benefit us. If you look around in most black communities, Mr. Brown, you will see that there's a lot of stores on every corner, but they're mostly owned by the Chinese who come into the community, set up shop, and then they build a wealth from the black community. So it's so prevalent. It's out here. We can see it every day. It's just a real life story, and we have to start back with putting it back into our community. Buying back, buy black instead of buying foreign. And if we can do that, if we can really support our community, we will see what it will do to help us come up as a community.
And that's so true because just like I say, you see a lot of the phone companies, you see the crickets, you see the booth. They kind of like use some. They look at what a lot of blacks buy, like shoes or clothing, and they kind of like go in that community and they kind of like take and they use that as a means of getting that money from that community. You
Yes,
see it
sir.
so many different. You see so many different like phone companies, and then they charge the rates are so high for their plans.
Yes, sir. I agree. It's the rates are astronomically high. And what happens, even with a phone, I'm glad you brought that up. They're so, the rates are so high that you can't continue to keep up with the bill. So what happens, they get further behind on that phone bill. And then they're scrambling to keep up to have a phone service. So I like the fact you brought it up because the rates are astronomically high in the black community.
But you see so many different of these stores that's located in our communities that and it seems to be like you're getting a deal, but really you're not.
No, you're
Every
not
time
getting
you
a
look.
deal. There's not a deal, but here's the thing, Mr. Brown. In our black communities, this is what we have to understand. Come there and they set up that store in that community. They're coming there to win. And they know it's just a haven. Hey, waiting, they're waiting there for them. They're waiting. So it's like a bee on a beehive. I set the honey and they're coming. So it's really there to get the black dollar. And that's what they're doing every day. And the only way it's going to ever change if we stop participating, going out purchasing from we just purchase from the black community, us.
Why is it so important that we start getting more knowledge on how to budget our money, how to manage our money in today's society?
Because yes, sir. Because once we're able to budget, that gives us control of our lives. You can't control your finances unless you have a budget. Because then you're able to know exactly where your money is going. If I don't have a budget and I'm just spending, how can I ever understand where my money is going? But once I'm able to write it down and I can see it, then I'm able to say, okay, this here is going there. And then once I'm able to pay out certain, like if I take one bill, just focus on one bill, Mr. Brown, pay that bill out. That has freed up some money that I can put toward another bill. And I just keep doing the same thing. And then guess what? Eventually, I'm going to see myself being debt free. And once I'm able to be debt free, then what I can do is take that money and start putting up that cushion, start, building up my credit. And then I become a business owner. So it has to start first with the budget. It doesn't happen until you start a budget.
In today's society, I know we really don't pay too much attention about it, but how important is knowing about your credit and your credit report?
Very, very important. Just to talk about most of the time, Mr. Brown, if you don't have good credit, you can't purchase a home, you can't purchase a car. I mean, the steeps are very high and the dips are low when you have not so good credit. So most of the time, in the black community, the majority have bad credit. And no one really wants to deal with the person with bad credit because that means if you have good credit, Mr. Brown, I mean, you're a trustworthy person. That's how they look at it. I can trust you. I can give you this loan because you have good credit. That's a trustworthy person right there. That's the way they look at credit.
But I've noticed that if you have bad credit, they will make the rates so high that you will kind of like fail, and they know you will fail ultimately, so that they will kind of like make your credit worse than what it really is.
Right. And
And
the
they will
reason
kind of,
being, Mr. Brown, and the reason being because think about it. The higher the rate, the higher the note. So I'm glad you brought that out. When you have bad credit, yeah, they'll give you something on credit, but you got to keep in mind, like you said, that interest rate is going to be so high you can hardly afford to keep it.
and you're going to pay more on the interest than what you're really paying for on what you really borrow. Like you might get a
Exactly. That is
car,
so true.
you might get a car that might be worth 2,000, but you're going to pay interest $4,000 on interest on a $2,000 car.
That is so very true because that happens when you have bad credit. You have to go to a mom and pop store to say, for example, get you a vehicle. And they have over there, the rates are going to be skyrocket high, so high again that you barely can afford the note. That car either going to be repossessed or you're going to struggle to pay for it. And then still and all, your credit is still going downhill. So I do agree. Their interest rates will be, I mean, extremely high.
And then the type of vehicle you're going to get is going to be below average, whereas they know it's going to break down anyway. When you could have had probably a better credit, and the car would have lasted years and years, and you would have
That
been
is
paying
correct.
20.
That is correct. And Mr. Brown, and as we're talking about credit, I want to tell you that's what we help on also. With life protection, we talk about budgeting. We talk about improving your credit score because your credit score is who you are. When you go into a bank or anywhere, Mr. Brown, they don't look at, oh, I'm sitting down talking to Sally or Jane, their credit score, to see if they can even help Sally or Jane.
In today's society, they're even before they even hire you, they're starting now to look at your credit before they even start hiring you these days. So why is it so important that you start looking into your credit and knowing what your credit score is and start working on it, improving it?
It's it's very important because again, as I said before, that credit is who you are. That credit tells a person, hey, this person is trustworthy. I can depend on this person. It shows dependability. It shows trustworthiness. That means this person is be a good person for me to give a chance with my company. They're not a real big risk because when you talk about credit scores, it lets you know when a person is a big risk are not a risk not a risk at all. So I'm glad you talked about that. And the one thing about credit, Mr. Brown, is that we have to understand if we can present good credit, we can have good jobs. Like you said, it goes into the employer areas even. We can show that, hey, we are trustworthy, we are dependable. If we can only have that. So it's very important that you check on your credit score annually and also do things that's going to help your credit score to improve. If you have a credit card, to use no more than 20% of that credit card. That way, your score will be a good score. Again, just making sure that you check your credit at least once a year. And there are sites that you can go on, like annualcreditreport.com and also Credit Karma to keep up with your credit score.
Now I know we're coming close to the end of the show, Ms. Williams. So, what advice would you give the viewing audience? Especially with the life protection that the topic that we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
In
Thank you,
closing,
Mr. Brown. My advice I would like to leave with the community is to first think about your family. And if it's not going to benefit your family, you're really wasting time. Really think about what can I do as a parent to make certain my family they're prepared for hardship or anything that may happen unexpectedly. Because certainly, trust me, life happens and it will happen to you. So the one thing you want to do is to be prepared when it happens to you. And that is putting life protection in place. So whenever it does happen, that you will be able to leave your family a legacy. So that cycle, that vicious cycle will be broken somewhere.
thank you, Ms. Williams, for coming on the show. And I look forward for you coming back. I'd like for you to come back some more. And this kid the community on. This that budgeting and that managing that money and this now because that's very important in this growth. This because in today's society, just starting this, like you say, this putting away this $25. You got to start somewhere. Start
Yes, sir.
today, and when you start today, and then next week, and then it'll grow. It'll grow.
Yes, sir. That's right. But I like what you said, Mr. Brown. Start somewhere. If we never change the mindset, think about it. If you continue to do what is not working, you're never going to do anything to improve. So you got to change your mindset. You got to change the way you're thinking. And you got to understand if I can just start putting something back, that's a start toward a better future.
And it's gonna help you on the long run, and you're gonna notice that there's gonna be a change, and it's be there, and you're gonna notice that there's gonna be something when that emergency. You're gonna look back and say, it started.
It'll make you feel good about yourself. The way I look at it, Mr. Brown, every morning I get up, I'm very thankful to God that He's brought me this far to just share, the gems with the community that He's given me. And not only just, from a business standpoint, from a personal standpoint. I know I've been there. I was never the person who was in the bad credit or anything like that. But as far as losing my child, I've been there. And again, when that happened, it made me relook at my life to make sure, hey, if anything else should ever happen like this again, will you be prepared? So after that happened to my son, I went and I just revisit all of my policies. I just increased everything tremendous because that's so important. I don't want to ever be stuck like that again as I was with losing my child.
Thank you, Ms. Williams, for the wealth of knowledge that you've given us. And as I'm saying, I look for you to and just educate us some more on this very important topic. Thank you,
Yes, sir.
ma'am.
And I want to thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, gentlemen, for watching the show, and you be encouraged. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Yes, ma'am.